Parashat Tzav. This portion of Tzav is divided into two halves. The first half dealing with the regular sacrifices in the sanctuary, and the second half dealing with the investiture of Aaron and his sons. And there's something very interesting. You know that the Bible has words and the Bible has music. There are special cantillations or trope, signs which express the melody with which every word is to be chanted by the Torah reader. And there are those who claim that the cantillations and the trope go back to Mount Sinai. The trope is very important. It tells you when to pause, as in a comma, or completely stop at the end of a verse, because the words run on and there's no clear way within the written Torah scroll to know when the sentences conclude. And it tells you when there is a high-pitched, exalted note, or when there is a very decisive and expressive note. The song of the Torah, the emotions of the Torah, are expressed through the cantillations, through the various trope or melody signs. Now, the longest of these trope is called a shalshelet. It's a curlicue. And it's lengthy. And the music expresses hesitancy and even sometimes anguish and concern. And this shalshelet, lengthy sound, only occurs 4 times within the 5 books of Moses. I'll give you an example. When Joseph is almost seduced by Mrs. Potiphar, and he's a stranger in a strange land, and he's lonely, and he would love to feel closeness of someone because he was without a family, and even feelings of rejection by the family, the brothers that wanted to destroy him, and the father who didn't seem to look for him. At the same time, he understood that an act of adultery would be a terrible sin. A sin against God and a sin against Potiphar, who was good to him, and who trusted him as the steward of the household. And he thought about his father's moral lessons. But at the same time, one other aspect of it all. If he refused this powerful woman, she could destroy his career before it began. And so the Hebrew word is vayemo'ein, and he refused. But the cantillation, the trope of the shalshelet is above it. Vayemo'ein. Took him a long time to refuse. And all of the complexity involved in his refusal is to be found within that shalshelet trope. Interestingly enough, in the portion of Tzav, with the induction ceremonies of Aaron and his sons, Moses leading, directing the proceeding, Vayishchat. Moses sacrificed the second ram, which was the ram of the consecration of Aaron and his sons. The ram that concluded the inauguration of Aaron and his children. That word has the trope of a shalshelet. What's complicated? Why the hesitancy? Why the anguish? What happened here? And let me try to explain what I believe is the poignancy of the act of slaughter of this ram on the part of Moses. At the end of the portion of Exodus, the first portion of the book of Shemot, at the end of that portion, God challenges Moses with leadership of the Jewish people. And Moses demurs. He feels he's heavy of speech. He feels he's not worthy. He feels the people will not listen to him. And again, he's heavy of speech. And God becomes angry with Moses. And God says to Moses, Aaron the Levite, he will be your spokesperson. You will bring him God's message, and he will be your spokesperson. Rashi on the spot, the commentaries all express the question. Aaron isn't the Levite, Aaron is the priest, Kohen. Moses is the Levite prophet. And Rashi says, quoting the Midrash, that indeed Moses was supposed to be the priest Kohen who would give over the prophetic priest to the dynastic priesthood to the next generation and the next generation, from father to son to son. But when Moses so often rejects the leadership, God makes Aaron the priest, the head of the priestly dynasty, and Moses the prophet. And this is not merely because God was annoyed with Moses for not accepting the challenge of leadership immediately. It also has to do with Moses' personality and Aaron's personality. Moses was heavy of speech. He loved divine fellowship. He was impatient with human fellowship. Remember, he breaks the tablets in anger. He strikes the rock in anger at the Israelites. Moses even doesn't have the time and the patience for familial relationships. He divorces his wife, Zipporah. Moses seeks God and God talk. Moses' active intellect kissed God's active intellect. Moses loves to deal with God. And that's precisely what God said to Moses at the end of the first portion in the book of Exodus. God says to Moses, Aaron will be your spokesperson. Aaron will speak to the people and teach them God's Torah, which you, Moses, will convey to Aaron. That's what will happen. Now the truth is that the children of Aaron must love peace and pursue peace. Love humanity and bring them near to Torah. You can't bring people close to Torah unless you love them, live with them, are involved with them, have patience for them. And as I said, Moses doesn't even have patience for family. He's involved in God talk. I believe that's what happens here. Moses does not give his gifts of prophecy and intellect and spiritual greatness to the next generation. Intellect, spiritual greatness is not an inheritable trait. Love is. Acts of loving kindness are. A father can give over to a son words of love, speaking lovingly, doing acts of love. And that dynasty was given to Aaron. Now Moses is directing the proceeding. And he's sacrificing the ram that completes the act of giving over the task of priest dynasty to Aaron and his sons. Moses' sons are not mentioned anywhere in the Bible really as people of important function or office. And although Moses was not a person of people or even children, Moses at this moment understands how much he sacrificed by giving himself completely over to his God and his nation. As he sacrifices, he feels a bit jealous. As he sacrifices, he feels anguish about perhaps the loss of personal continuity, his inability to give over his gifts to his next generation. This hesitancy, this jealousy, this anguish is all expressed in the shalshelet above the word Vayishchat, and Moses sacrificed the ram for his brother's continuity in the priesthood. Moses, after all, is a human being, very close to God, but still very human. Shabbat Shalom.